Okay, we'll get started. So welcome to the University of Saskatchewan College of Medicine admission information session for the entry for fall of 2025. My name is Trustin Domes. I'm the Director of Admissions for the College of Medicine. My term as Director of Admission is actually going to be ending here in the next few weeks, but I've been privileged to have this position over the last 5 years, and I know that this portfolio in the College of Medicine is going to be in good hands. Next slide. To start off our session, I think it's super important to show respect for our lands and for our treaties and for our Indigenous peoples and of our province and in Canada. We're all treaty people. Here in Saskatchewan, we're on Treaty 6 territory. In Regina, those joining us are in Treaty 4. And we want to pay respect to the First Nation and Métis ancestors of this place and reaffirm our relationship with one another. In everything we do in the College of Medicine, especially in admissions, we really work together to build truth and reconciliation. Next slide. For the session tonight, because there's a lot of people joining us and it's virtual, we do have some sort of rules of engagement. We will be having multiple speakers join us today, providing their perspectives and information regarding our admissions. I wanted to thank everyone who's joining us. We are going to have a lot of information presented, and likely your question will be answered throughout the session tonight. But if there is still questions at the end, we will be opening up the chat and as well asking people who'd like to speak to sort of ask their question by raising their hand, and we will definitely try our best to answer. Now, we're somewhat limited if it's a very, very specific question on your particular situation. It's difficult to answer it in this type of forum, and we'd ask that you contact med.admissions@usask.ca for more specific questions regarding your own situation. But if it's a general question, especially if you think others would have it, we certainly will try our best to address it here this evening. So here's the general agenda. We anticipate to be done at 8 o'clock, if maybe sooner. Um, and so that's our timeline here for the next hour and a half to 2 hours. So we are going to have our U of R and U of S pre-medicine clubs presenting a short presentation. We will have Dr. Jackie Crochar join us from the Regina campus to give us a highlight and discuss the Regina campus. I will also give a presentation just in general about our admissions requirements. Ms. Cheryl Buchert, our admissions coordinator, will talk about our application process. Our Indigenous admissions leader, the senior lead of Indigenous initiatives and programs, Val Honorable-Pelche, will be giving us a review and update on our Indigenous admissions pathway. Kyle Carrier will discuss the Price of the Dream, which is a special project that we have here at University of Saskatchewan that basically provides financial assistance to those who have difficulties financially to gain access to the program with fee assistance. And then the highlight, I think, of the night is hearing from our medical students. So we have multiple medical students from both the Saskatoon and Regina campus here who are going to discuss their journey, their approach to medicine, how they got to where they are today, and certainly they'll be happy to answer some questions for you as well. And again, the question answer, again, we'll have that chat box feature put on at the end there. Right now it's disabled, but we will activate it near the end. And again, certainly feel free as well to raise your hand and be a brave soul and ask a question as well. We'll be happy to do that too. Next slide. So yeah, we'll now introduce our pre-medicine club co-president, Mohammed Qureshi, to give a short address representing the U of R Pre-Med Club.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. So the U of R Pre-Med Club is for everyone that is interested in medicine here at the University of Regina, and we offer some advantages to our members. One of the biggest ones that we have is partnerships. So if you're a member with the U of R Pre-Med Club, we're able to offer you discounts for your test prep materials, for question banks with UWorld and Blueprint and third-party practice questions that you may need. We also have game nights that you can come out to at any time, and it's going to be cheaper for members if you're a member with us. And we also have book sign-ups. So if you need an MCAT book or you need just some extra test prep materials for your MCAT or anything, you can sign out a book with us. And so that avoids you having to pay the hundreds of dollars that it can cost to get a full book set for yourself. We've also have like a mentorship opportunities. There's a mentorship program that we help facilitate here. So if students want to connect with a mentor, we can help make that happen. And we also put on information sessions and mock MMI practice sessions. The MMI practice is usually held in conjunction with Campion College as well as the U of S pre-med club at times. That's what we've done in past years. And that's what being a member of the U of R pre-med club offers.
Thank you so much, Mohammed. How much does it cost to be a member of your University of Regina pre-med club? Is there a charge?
It's completely free. So anyone can join us. We have in Instagram, so U of R Pre-Med Club. There's no spaces in that or any capitalization. So if you can search that on Instagram, the link to join will be in our bio as well. And so you can sign up through the university QPay as well. But there's also, if you're here on campus at the U of R, you can come visit us at the club fair during Welcome Week as well.
It's great. Excellent. And certainly if you're able to stick around to the end, if there's any questions in the final Q&A, you're more than welcome to. Okay, so now we have Alyssa Nand. She's the president of the Pre-Med Club at the University of Saskatchewan. I'll hand it over to Alyssa.
Hi everyone. Really nice to meet you. My name's Alyssa. I'm the current president of the U of S Pre-Med Club, and today I'm really excited to be sharing some things about the club. I actually have some slides to share. I'm not sure if it's in the PowerPoint or not, but
No, you're welcome to
Oh,
share those, Alyssa.
okay, for sure. Are you all able to see it? Okay, perfect. So let's get started. So who can join the Pre-Med Club? So our club is open to any students at the University of Saskatchewan, anyone who's interested in pursuing medicine. So there's no specific degree requirements. You can be arts and science, engineering, English, whatever you want to do. We are open and we're welcome to anyone who wants to join. So why join the Pre-Med Club? So as said earlier before by the U of R Pre-Med Club, we also provide a lot of resources that will help pre-meds on their pre-med journey. So that includes MMI interview prep sessions with medical students from the U of S. We have also med student symposiums to help with personal statements. And also we have some MCAT info sessions as well throughout the year. We also have discounts to the Princeton Review and other MCAT resources. We also have formal events and networking sessions. And lastly, we also are implementing study nights. So that just basically means you and your friends coming out to like the health sciences library and being able to work in a cohesive environment like that. And just as a note, our MMI sessions this year have limited spots just because there's a lot of demand for them as well. So if you're in first year, I would suggest waiting until January when we have our intro to MMI. So that'll give you a little bit of a what is MMI, how does it work? And then our MMI sessions during October is usually for upper year students who are applying or planning to apply next year. So how do I join? You can fill out the QR. You can click the link. I'll also put in the chat if anyone wants to join or scan the QR code. And also you'll have to e-transfer $5 to the email in the PowerPoint. Once again, I'll put everything in the chat so it's easier for you guys to see it. And an exciting announcement, we're also opening spots on our executive team. So we're opening 2 first-year rep positions and 2 members at large. The member at large role is very flexible, so that could be social media or outreach or vice president communications. And links are provided in our social media page. And how do I apply? So we have a Google form once again on our social media. We will then be choosing people for interviews, and then decisions will be made around early October. Thank you all for listening, and these are just our social medias. So we have the U of S Pre-Med Club Instagram, Facebook, and email. So don't hesitate to reach out. We're happy to assist. And I'll also be here if anyone has any questions at the end of the session. Thank you.
Thanks, Alyssa, for that information and being willing to stay till the end and answering any questions that people may have that comes through the chat. Okay, so now we will have Dr. Jackie Crochar. She is a physiatrist at the U of R campus. She's one of the medical education leaders of our college. And I have become good friends with Dr. Crochar over the years, and I'm very thankful for her and other members of the Regina campus team to give a address from the Regina campus and discuss it with the potential applicants tonight. So we'll hand it over to Dr. Crochar.
Thank you. I guess I'll share my screen and get this presentation going. So hopefully you can see that okay.
Coming through well.
Okay, excellent. So thank you, Dr. Domes, for the kind introduction. I just I'm happy to be here to bring a welcome on behalf of the Regina campus. I am a rehab doctor, a physiatrist at Wascana Rehab Center in Regina, and I'm involved a lot with the pre-clerkship students at the Regina campus as well. So I always like to take the opportunity to come and talk a little bit about our campus when they let me come and talk about it. So thank you for having me tonight. Just to give a little bit of information about the Regina campus, it's located directly in the Regina General Hospital. I think it's the only campus in Canada that's located in a hospital setting. And so it's very unique in that setting. And it's actually pretty interesting in that you get to, from day one of year one, spend time in the hospital setting, becoming familiar with the hospital environment. You get the opportunity to figure out where the best coffee is and what days are the best days in the cafeteria for your lunches, all those things in preparation for when you start clerkship and are on the wards more as well too. It's also unique because the residents, medical students, and physicians, they're all working in the hospital setting as well too. So you get to see them around and work closely together with them as well. One thing that's a bit new, and one of the reasons I think we wanted to spend some time talking about our campus in particular, is that in the last couple of years, we did an expansion where we now offer the complete MD program through Regina. So that means you can start in year one and go all the way through year 4 and end up with your MD at the end through the University of Saskatchewan at the Regina campus. And so that's a pretty exciting experience that has been offered now in the last couple of years and has been going really well at our campus. There's other sites in Regina where students spend time learning as well, including where I work otherwise at Wascana Rehab Center and as well as the Pasco Hospital. The learning spaces on the campus, we have done an extensive renovation over the last little while to really expand and allow our expansion to start having first year students join us. We've had second, third, and fourth years for many years, but first years were new to us. And so we had that opportunity to expand. And so we have the Health Sciences Learning Center where there's clinic rooms, classrooms, conference rooms, computer lab, student lounge, kind of everything you need in terms of your learning needs in the Learning Center. We also have an anatomy lab that students have access to right in the general hospital for their anatomy learning. There's libraries at each of the hospitals, actually. There's an auditorium at the Regina General Hospital for some classroom-based learning. There's a state-of-the-art Dilawri Simulation Center where there is opportunities for hands-on learning using mannequins to simulate realistic medical scenarios. And so it's a great opportunity for students to learn in a simulated environment and then have the opportunity to go and see patients in a real environment later on. And we also have, as students progress through their learning, dedicated call rooms and lounges and things for our clerks and residents. So there's lots of different spaces for learning on our campus. These are just some photos. On the top left is our simulation center. So that's one of our simulation rooms. On the bottom left is one of our new classroom areas that was part of our expansion. And then the top right is just the hallway leading into kind of the new expanded part of the College of Medicine that we have now. In terms of learning environment, I already talked about the uniqueness of having the learning environment in the hospital setting. We also have a small class size, a relatively small class size. There's 40 students every year that join us in their first year now in the Regina campus. And that small class size really allows students the opportunity to kind of get to know each other. And we often hear from our students of this kind of community feeling where they have this sense of community that they've joined and work together and support each other together. There's also on-site Office of Student Affairs team right within the hospital as well for students for any support. And our administrative team actually has offices right within the learning areas of the campus as well too, so that students always have quite easy access to any admin or support for any of their needs. We also have an amazing group of faculty that include practicing physicians, both family physicians and Royal College certified physicians from variety of specialties, pretty much every specialty, I would say, who are very eager and excited to teach medical students. We also have residents from different programs and have several programs now in Regina for residency. And that really provides additional opportunities for mentorship and teaching for our medical students. And then of course, other healthcare professionals. So our colleagues in nursing and therapies and social work and everything else also participate in teaching and really enjoy teaching our medical students. We are a distributed college, so we're distributed in pre-clerkship in the first 2 years of medical school between Saskatoon and Regina, the two main campuses. And so in those opportunities where there's large group learning, such as a lecture style of teaching, students connect at both sites between Regina and Saskatoon through teleconferencing, and the lecturer will be at one site and then teleconference to the alternate site. And both classrooms are set up with microphones and cameras and everything like that so that you can ask questions and interact with the faculty no matter what site they're presenting from. And then we do have lecturers that are based from Regina and Saskatoon that participate in teaching in those sessions in smaller group settings, like if we're doing clinical skills or hands-on practical teaching and things like that. Those are done at the campuses respectively in smaller groups with the faculty at each of the campuses. And then our students will be joining and speaking a little bit later, but there is a student medical society who really helps keep everyone connected as well for social events, both at each campus and within the campuses together. Indigenous learning is a very important part of our college, and in the Regina campus, we do have an Indigenous coordinator. Her name's Amanda Crow, and she has been working hard on planning some cultural events for the 2024-2025 academic year and is involved in planning events with us at the Regina campus. And she also works closely with medical students on community projects as well. Just in terms of MCCQE, so this is the exam kind of that students write at the end of their medical school. You can see that both campuses, Regina and Saskatoon, are very competitive and have a very successful pass rate over the last few years and compared nationally in Canada as well. So definitely this speaks, I think, to the quality of learning at both campuses and allowing success of our medical students for those last exams that they write at the end of their medical school careers. This is a survey that is completed by medical students upon graduation. And this is the most recent report from July of this year. And it really, we were excited to kind of share it because it showed that for our campus, students have indicated that they're either satisfied or very satisfied, 80%, with wellness and with wellness opportunities and just general overall wellness within our campus. And then also there's very high rates of satisfaction in career planning services as well, that we were happy to kind of see. The overall quality of medical education is generally rated very well and above the national average as well, which is very exciting to see as well. In terms of residency, our Regina residents and actually overall our residents at the University of Saskatchewan do very well in their match. In the Regina campus in particular, we had 34 out of 35 students last year receive their first or get matched in the first round of the match. And 26% matched to programs in family medicine and 71% to Royal College specialty programs. And these are listed here, and you can see they vary between anesthesia, dermatology, radiology, psychiatry, physical medicine, and rehab. I have to put that in there just because that's my program, but it's a very well-rounded specialties and areas of medicine that students match to, and some are very competitive. So we're very excited to see that as well for them too. In Regina in particular, we've been expanding the residency programs that we have in Regina. And so you can see all of them listed here. We have family medicine, pediatrics, psychiatry, obstetrics and gynecology, emergency medicine, and internal medicine. And in the last year, we've expanded to dermatology, anesthesiology, and of course, my personal favorite, physical medicine and rehab. So we're very excited to continue expanding our programming for residents as well at our campus. We also are definitely involved in research for the College of Medicine. We have a dedicated research department that helps guide and support students and works with faculty on research projects. We have dean's projects that we do every summer that students can apply to. You can see we had 14 projects in 2023 and 18 in 2024 where students participated in research. We have medical education research opportunities, and Indigenous wellness research opportunities as well. And then this logo here, the RISE Research, Innovation, and Scholarship and Education Conference. We hosted that in Regina last year as well too. So we're very excited to participate in research opportunities. And sometimes there's pizza at some of them too. We have research and pizza times. Our students, residents, and faculty present at both national and international levels in conferences, and it always feels a little awkward presenting when there's a picture of yourself on the screen, but this is me and a student who presented at my national rehab conference in Whitehorse, not the White House, several years ago, and then one of my other colleagues presented in Florida at a national conference last year. And so these are just some of the cities and places that we've presented over the years with our students and our faculty. So definitely actively involved in research and love to have those opportunities. Of course, you can't have medical school without having those social aspects as well too, to connect everyone and spend time together. So we do host a variety of events, and so does our students as well for our campus. And so this is a welcome evening that we host, of course, at Mosaic Stadium, just to be one of those famous Regina landmarks where students have the opportunity to meet with faculty both from Saskatoon and Regina and get a warm welcome to the college. This is a white coat ceremony that we host every year and alternate between Regina and Saskatoon. And so it was in Regina, I guess, a couple years ago now. And so this is just a picture from that day, which is another nice event that we host. And then this is the Miles for Smiles. It's a marathon that the medical students in year one organized and raised money for Sask Abilities. And so that was a really great event in Regina as well. This is upcoming, so if you are interested and you maybe want an opportunity to meet some medical students and faculty, there is an arts night and showcase that's happening this month on September 26th at the Neil Balkwell Art Center in Regina. There is an art display that's there for the whole month, so you can go see medical student art and learn a little bit about arts and humanities and the course they do there. So that's just a little information in case you're interested. But that's all I have to say from the Regina campus. I hope I gave you a little bit of information and maybe something you didn't know about us. And we hope we'll see you soon. Thank you.
That's great. Thanks so much, Dr. Kroshar. And again, we'll be having the discussion with our students who, again, will represent both the Saskatoon and the Regina campus. So you'll have the student perspective as well. But thank you very much. So yeah, now we'll switch gears to the general admissions talk, more looking at the requirements to gain admission to our program and a little bit about some of the statistics. Next slide. Important to note, that although we have campuses in both Saskatoon and Regina, this is truly Saskatchewan's medical school, and it's really important that we realize that it's distributed throughout the whole province and it's there to serve the whole province. So no matter where you are from Saskatchewan, there's a place for you in the College of Medicine. We very much want people from the whole province, representing the whole province, to have a footprint on our college. Next slide. And we do have a lot to be proud of. We're a smaller medical school, but despite our size, I think we punch higher than our weight. We're national leaders in Indigenous health. We have a lot of great programs that focus on social accountability, and you see some of them here. That's the Certificate in Global Health, the only Canadian medical school that has such certificate. Search and Switch, which are our student-ran initiatives in inner city Saskatoon and Regina. We have an MBA, MD dual degree program. Again, great opportunity to gain that business knowledge as part of your MD degree. And then, I'm biased, but again, I think we have amongst the best, if not the best, point of care ultrasound program in the country. Again, we have great leaders in that and continue to innovate in that space. So this is just some of the many things we have to be proud of. Of course, our students, our faculty, our leaders, they all, our staff, they all play a role in basically ensuring that our learners are successful on their path through medicine. Next slide. And Dr. Karchar mentioned this and just reiterated that, yes, of course, there's lots of studying and lots of hours behind, the computer and books and small group sessions and lectures. But there's also time for fun, and there's also time to connect with your colleagues and connect with really who are going to become your lifelong friends. So because we're we're amongst the smallest of medical schools in Canada, that allows you to gain those really tight-knit relationships with your fellow classmates, with others in the college as well. So just a quick breakdown of our four-year program. So we have 108 seats, 68 of them are in Saskatoon, 40 in Regina, and Dr. Krasher gave us a great review of the Regina campus. So years 1 and 2 are in either one of those cities. In year 3, certainly you would maintain in that city, or there's great opportunity actually to get additional training in the clerkship through our longitudinal integrated clerkship. And these are in the areas of orange there on the Saskatchewan map. And these are communities where you do the entire clerkship, which is a year program, in one of these smaller communities to get really comprehensive training and one-on-one with the faculty. There's not a lot of other learners around, so it's very, very rich learning environment. And then year 4 is where our students go off and they do their preparation for residency, they do electives, and they also, of course, do the residency match. In terms of our requirements, of course, we have academic requirements. We want to ensure that our applicants coming in have the academic preparedness to succeed. And we also have our personal factor assessment. Again, super important. Obviously IQ is important and these academic things, but just as important, if maybe not more important, are the personal factors and emotional intelligence, and we assess that through these different things that we'll talk about. Next slide. So new for this year, so this is a change, although it has been announced for the last 3 years, but it will be instituted. This cycle is we're the first medical school in Canada to have a 3-credit unit Indigenous study prerequisite, and we're very proud of that. And this is going to be, I think, a game changer for us in our program in terms of being able to offer the next level in terms of these discussions regarding Indigenous health. But it is important that this prerequisite is obtained by the time of offer, so it needs to be completed prior to entry into the program. And you know, certainly there's, as you go through the application, it will ask you, you know, what have you taken and when did you take it, and it's very important that is there. Now we have a list of courses that are approved. Because not just any course, it has to discuss sort of the teachings and the historical context and effects of colonialism and how that, you know, impacts Indigenous people and also the systems in Canada and health outcomes. And so we do have a list, and it is available online. If you are taking a course or interested in a course and it's not on that list, it's very important that you email us at med.admissions@usask.ca, and we will need to adjudicate that course and ensure that it meets the requirement. And then once it does, we'll put it on our list and, of course, email you that it is accepted. The MCAT is another feature. Again, it is a standardized test. The vast majority of English-speaking medical schools in Canada have the MCAT. We do require the MCAT for this cycle. It has to be no later than or no earlier than January 2020. And we do have posted minimum scores here. And these minimum scores are there to ensure that you have a certain level of competency in these areas of basic science, that we, you know, want to ensure that everyone's coming in with those background subjects and understand some of the nuances, so we're able to move on in the program. So they're listed here. It's a 492 minimum total score and 123 in each of the subsections, except we will allow a 122 as long as the total still equals 492. There are, as you heard from the pre-med club, you know, prep courses and other things. Certainly, you know, an introductory level courses as listed here are very helpful in your preparation for the MCAT as well. CASPER is another test that's done online. So it's an online situational judgment test. It's there. It has to be written each year of application. So it's usually done in the sort of late spring, early summer of the year that you're going to apply. So those who are going in for this cycle, I think tomorrow is the last day where the CASPER test has to be completed. So it is important. It's used as we use it in our program as more or less a screen for some of the personal factors, and you see some of the assessments that Casper looks at. So it's typically a video scenario or maybe a written scenario, and you have to respond to that scenario and how you would sort of react in a certain situation. They've also included some video responses as well as typed responses. And so more information on the Casper is available there by Acuity Insights. The multiple mini interview. So the vast majority of med schools in Canada use the multiple mini interview. At U of S, we use 6 stations. Each station's about 10 minutes, and it's with one we call it observer or assessor. And each different station is used to assess a different competency, or as you see here on the CAMEDS flower at the bottom, we're looking at different things on the station. And every applicant will do the same stations, although we do 2 days, so they do switch. And it's important because the multiple mini interview has been shown really to be superior in many ways to some of the other assessments of personal factor, because you're getting 6 different snapshots of the individual from 6 different people. And so that decreases bias. It also allows you to assess multiple different things. We do our MMI through Kira platform, and we've been working with them now for, this will be our 4th year, and we've been very happy with the service, and it's worked very well. The other thing that we have in terms of completing our assessment, and this is mainly to get to know our applicants better and learn about their individual journeys, is we do have a panel interview process and a conversation circle process for our Indigenous applicants. Basically, this is a 45-minute interview or conversational interview where 2 interviewers from our college, 1 learner and 1 faculty member, will discuss your journey and look at your motivations and reasons for entering medicine, looking at some of your life experiences and things that you've had in your life and how they may relate to resiliency or maturity or motivation. So this is certainly a very important aspect. Not everyone who makes it to the MMI will necessarily make it to the panel interview, but the panel interview is really for the 240, approximately 240 of the applicants will get invited to the panel interview. The panel interview is offered in person or virtual, and it's here in Saskatoon at the University of Saskatchewan Health Sciences Building. Now, if you take it in person, there's some value adds in terms of getting to do tours, getting to see different aspects of our facilities. We have some booths for student groups and other things. There's some snacks and ability to interact with our students, staff, and faculty. But if you are attending it virtually for personal reasons or other, we've done close assessments and show that the performance on this interview, whether it's done virtually or in person, there's no statistical significant difference. So you're not disadvantaged in any way. We do assessment of professionalism and academic consistency and misconduct. So we do have that as part of our process. Important thing here is that any interaction you have with our college, whether it's with our admission staff or with others, it's always very, very important to maintain professionalism throughout all of those interactions. Now, when we look at the metrics, to get invited to the MMI, we use about a 50-50 split here between the academic average and the MCAT. And we also look at the bottom there, you'll see the Saskatchewan Connected Index and DSAP Index. DSAP is our Diversity and Social Accountability Program, but those indices also very much help inform who we invite to the MMI. As Saskatchewan's only medical school, it's really important that we're looking to maximize those seat allocations to those that have high amounts of Saskatchewan connectedness. And so we want to look at that. That doesn't mean all of the invites go to that, but a vast majority do. And then from there, when it gets to the panel interview, as you see there, the MCAT drops off, and then it's a 50-50 between the academic average and the MMI performance. And then the total or the final rank, we call it the rank number or rank for admission, is a ratio of 30% the academic average, 35% the MMI, and 35% the panel interview score. Again, looking at the DSAP and the Saskatchewan Connected Index as well. We also do have, I should mention, there are some written statements that we put in at the beginning of application. Those are also in there, and oftentimes those will be spoken or there'll be reference to them, especially at the level of the panel interview. Okay, so that's another thing that I forgot to mention. So we do have sort of 3, we call them streams or different paths to access for our program. The general admission, again, there's 108 total seats, but we have 20 seats that are for our Indigenous Mission Circle for our Indigenous students, and Val will be speaking to this shortly. And then we also have 7 seats for the Diversity and Social Accountability Admissions Program. More information on both of these programs are available on the website. And like I said, Val will speak in more detail to the Indigenous Mission Circle. And these programs are there because it's really, really important that our incoming medical school class reflects the populations that we serve. Historically, there's been injustices in terms of who's getting into medical school, meritocracy, and other barriers that really are not fair and just. And we really are wanting to break those barriers down and be socially accountable and basically have, as you see here, a multitude of different backgrounds, so socioeconomic, racial background, different, abilities coming into our program, and that adds a lot of strength and richness. And that is what's going to move the needle in terms of our college and making the changes that we need to in healthcare. So the DSAT program, like I said, there's more information online with it, but basically it's an opt-in survey where students who feel that they have significant barriers to enter medical school, whether they're financial or other, are welcome to take this optional survey. And it, like I said, there's questions, and we do verification of them as well, but there's a sort of score that then translates into sort of going through the process and also gaining access to those 7 seats. And this is the timeline for this cycle. So our application window is opened already. It opened on August 1st. August 30th was the last day where we'd accept the MCAT test score. And tomorrow is the last accepted date for the Casper. October 1st, our application closes. This is certainly a not a negotiable date. This is the drop dead date for application. So it closes on October 1st. And so you have to have the application completed and paid and everything for it to move forward. There's some supplemental items to submit, including those written statements like we talked about. And then in January, the MMI, typically in December, near the end of December, mid to end December, the invites for the MMI will come out. March is where our panel interview is, or conversation circle process. And then May, usually in the second week of May, is the first round of offers being released. Okay, I'll hand it over to Cheryl to discuss a little more detail about the application process.
Great, thank you very much, Dr. Domes. I'm just going to quickly go through some slides here to help outline the application process. Some of you may be currently involved in that if you're applying for this year. Next slide, please. So as Dr. Domes did mention, the application deadline is October 1st, and it's at 11:59 p.m. It will close down. We cannot accept any late applications, and you need to pay the application fee. And you also need to distribute your Casper score to our program and release your MCAT score to our program by that deadline. We cannot accept late or any kind of late payments, applications, Casper scores, or MCAT scores. So please make sure that you're watching those deadlines. Next slide, please. Our application system is through the university central system for applying. If you want to know what the requirements are or any information regarding our admission requirements, make sure that you do go through and read very carefully our applicant information document and the FAQs that are also provided on our website. And that's the website address there. And you should find mostly all of the answers to the questions that you may have. Next slide. When you're ready to start your application, you can go to the application portal, and it's at that link that's listed there. Next slide. And what you'll need to do is you'll need to create an account with the University of Saskatchewan. If you have applied recently for another program, or maybe you're a student here and you're doing your undergrad, your first undergrad degree here, you may already have an account created. If not, if you're not from USask, you do need to go in and create an account. It's fairly easy to get that going. Make sure you remember the email address that you used for it and the password. Next slide, please. You'll need to indicate that you are applying to the undergrad program, and there's also a medicine graduate program, which sometimes students do get confused and click that one. Make sure you are applying to the undergraduate program. Next slide. You can start your application at any time. It's open now. It opened at the beginning of August, and you can work on it. You can save it as you go, and you can return to it at any time. So you don't need to go in and complete it in one sitting. We think it's important for students to maybe go in and really give some thought into what you're entering, and that you don't try to submit it all in one step. And that you can return to it anytime you want, excuse me, before the application deadline. Just make sure that you do remember to go back and submit it. When you get to the end of completing all of the sections of the application, it will give you the green button that's circled there that says preview before submission. You cannot submit it until you preview it. And this is where it will come up and it'll show you maybe some missing pieces of information. And it's also an opportunity for you to go through step by step, question by question, and review what you have entered. This is your chance to review, to correct any mistakes you may have made or enter any omitted information. And the application does autofill some of the fields. So it's really important that you are double checking that it hasn't autofilled maybe something that was incorrect or some out-of-date information. Next slide, thanks. And then once you are sure that you've checked it all through and it's as you would like it to be, then you can go to the submit page. Then it takes you to your payment. If you have been granted a price of a dream code waiver, you would enter the code there. And if not, then you would proceed to payment. You will receive a notice that your application has been, the fee's been paid and your application's been received. It's very important that students get that message, because sometimes they'll go through and they'll do the preview piece and forget to submit and think that they did submit it. So make sure that you're getting that payment page or the spot to put in the waiver code, and that you're actually seeing that it's paid and submitted. You'll also receive an email thanking you for your application. That email will also include your University of Saskatchewan NSID. It's like a 3-letter, 3-number code. You'll want to make sure that you do keep that handy because you will need it in the future. The deadline to submit supplemental items is October 15th. So some of the supplemental items, as you're going through your application, you may wonder, oh, where do I put this one? Do I attach this? You will get that notification after you submit your application. Next slide, please. So supplemental items can be things such as your a scan of your official transcripts, your high school transcript if you attended outside of Saskatchewan for high school, your permanent resident proof, your statement relating to any background questions if you need to submit that, your personal statements, and also your Indigenous Studies prerequisite information. Those are all types of things that will be supplemental items. And those do have the deadline of October 15th, and you won't get prompted for these items until you submit your application. So just make sure, don't worry about, oh, where do I, I've put in my institution, where do I attach my transcript? You will get prompted to that. The other thing that is due on October 15th is if you're applying through for Indigenous admissions pathway, your proof of Indigenous citizenship or membership does need to go to the Truth Policy process for the University of Saskatchewan, and you will get prompted to do what you need to do there for that. So just make sure you're following the deadlines and checking your items. When you submit your application, it will tell you what supplemental items are missing and are outstanding, so you can keep going back to the application to check on that. Next slide, please. So only after you submit your application and pay your fee will you get those supplemental items. So maybe you're wondering, oh, where do I get my personal statement questions, or where do I attach my transcripts? Again, make sure you submit your application first, and then you'll get that. You'll receive a message telling you to log into your application and what you need to upload. Your application is not considered complete until you've uploaded all of the supplemental items and met the deadlines that are outlined there. Throughout the cycle, you may be asked to upload further documentation or your references, that sort of thing, but you will get prompted to do that. It's really important, that you do check in on your application every once in a while and just monitor it to make sure that there's nothing outstanding. Next slide, please. Make sure that when you're uploading your official transcripts, that you are uploading a scan of both sides. We need to capture maybe on the back of the transcript, on the back of the page, there'll be the grading scale, that sort of thing. So we need to make sure that we have all pieces and all years of your transcript, that it's fully complete. So we do ask that you scan both sides of your transcript and then submit that as a one document. You only need to submit official transcripts to us once you are offered admission. So that would be no earlier than the middle of May. So please don't contact your institution and have an official transcript sent to us in the mail. We're not able to use that. You need to have that transcript in your own hand, and you need to upload it. If you have to submit your permanent residency documentation, make sure that as well that you're scanning both sides, because there is information on the backs of the cards that we do require. We will carry out random audits in relation to your responses on the Saskatchewan Connectedness, DSAP, all sorts of pieces of your application, and you will be receive those requests through email and through your application, and you'll be given a deadline where you need to respond by. And so it's very important that you are checking and responding and uploading that information if we need some extra documentation or proof of your claims for Saskatchewan Connectedness or the DSAP. Next slide, please. As Dr. Domes mentioned, tomorrow is the last available writing of Casper. Make sure if you are writing it tomorrow that you're very carefully check the time that's listed on there, that you don't miss it because of maybe a time zone difference or whatever's being listed on there for you, because tomorrow is the latest writing that we will accept. You need to distribute your Casper score to our program by the deadline of October 1st. If you need to sign up for your test, or you need to know how to distribute your scores, go to their website. All the information is in there for you. On your application, it will show that we haven't received your Casper scores, and that will be marked as received until probably closer to December. We spend October, November doing file review, and only after we look at your Casper scores and do our initial review will they be marked as received. So if you're concerned that there's some problem with your Casper score, log back into your account on the Casper site, and there will be a report on there for you that says that you did distribute your score, and the date that you did distribute it, and to which program. So that's the proof that you need, and also if there's any question that we would ask for to make sure that it was released on the right time. Next slide, please. Same with the MCAT. Your MCAT must be written by August 30th, so that date has passed for this application cycle. The earliest test that we did accept was from January 2020. and we look for your best test score at one sitting. You need to release your MCAT scores to us during the window of August 1st, October 1st. If you released your score to us maybe back in February, if you wrote it earlier in the year, you'll need to go in and release it to us again in that window of August 1st to October 1st, or we will not receive it. Again, with these scores, we won't mark them as received until we have done our review, and that could take for the months of October, November. So you might not see your MCAT scores marked in your application till closer to December. Don't be alarmed. That's just the way the system works and the way our review process is carried out. If you're concerned about your MCAT scores, you can log into the MCAT test site, and there will be a report that is generated there that does show and prove that your scores were released to us and on what date. So you can go in there, and that'll help give you a little bit of assurance that they were sent to us. Next slide, please. Even though we do ask that you go in and you review that application very thoroughly before you submit it, there may be the odd instance where you need to make a change or correction to your application after you've submitted it. So if you do need to make a change, we ask that you do send very clear information and description of what needs to be changed to med.admissions@usask.ca. You will note that on a supplemental item such as the personal statements, once they're submitted, that is what is submitted, and there's no opportunity to resubmit. So with those, make sure that you don't rush your personal statements, that you do read them very carefully, and that you've set them up as per the instructions that are laid out very clearly for you before you upload those, because once they're uploaded, there is no opportunity to change what you've submitted there. Just remember, medicine is a career where we look and we hope that our applicants will have attention to detail and be very careful and that they're accurate. And so be sure that you do read over your application before you submit it, so that there is not a lot of changes that need to be sent in. Next slide, please. At any time, you can log into your account. You can see the status of your application. You can see what has been received, what has been marked as received, and what's outstanding. So make sure you go in there and review it. And as we had indicated before, there will be things throughout the cycle that there'll be added items that you'll need to submit. So you need to be watching and checking that very carefully. Next slide, please. Here's our contact information. We have our website, which again, before you email with your inquiry, make sure that you have reviewed and read very thoroughly the applicant information document. Actually, the first question when you go into the application is that you have to attest that you have read it. So you don't want to falsify your application there. Make sure that you have read it, and make sure that you have reviewed the FAQs that we have on the website. If you do have any questions that are not answered in the applicant information document or on the website, then we do ask that you email Med Admissions. The email address is there, and we are receiving a very high volume of emails right now, as you can imagine, leading up to the application deadline. We may not be able to get a response to everyone before the deadline, and so you still need to apply even if you do not receive a response. And many of the emails too are in connection to the Indigenous Prerequisite Studies, Indigenous Studies course, the new prerequisite. And you do need to have that course approved, and that is one of the supplemental items. So if you have not got your prerequisite course approved yet, make sure you're reviewing the list of approved courses and that you are, if it's not on that list, that you are getting it approved before the application deadline. Next slide, please. And we'll address any questions again at the end of the session. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Cheryl, and thanks to Cheryl and the whole admissions team for all the hard work. Again, our team is here to support you as an applicant, but please give us grace. Again, there's a lot of emails coming through, a lot of communications, and we will definitely get to every email, but certainly give us grace. Thank you. Now I have the pleasure of introducing Val Arnaud-Pelche. She's our Senior Lead of Indigenous Initiatives and Programming to give some information about our Indigenous admissions pathway.
Thank you, Dr. Domes. And just wanted to introduce myself. So as Dr. Domes said, I'm Val Arnaud-Pelche, and I am the Senior Lead. I've been in this role for a little over 14 years. And prior to that, I worked with the College of Nursing in a similar role for over 16 years. So I've been around for a little while. I am from Beardy's and Okimausis First Nation. And of course, I always acknowledge my mother's community of Waterhen First Nation. I have had the pleasure of creating programming, new initiatives in the College of Medicine. Mine is the first role in the College of Medicine that has been full-time and dedicated to recruitment, retention, admissions, and other initiatives in the college. Next slide. So in terms of the supports and initiatives, as Dr. Domes had mentioned, we do have 20 seats available specifically for First Nations, Métis, and Inuit applicants. It is, this is the first time we've had those 20 seats. I guess this will be the third year now that we're offering those seats. So we haven't actually gone through a full cycle yet with our first cohort of folks. The lovely lady that you see, if you can go back, I just wanted to make mention of Dr. Electra Laxall, who is from Lac La Ronge Indian Band. We're very, very proud of her. So she convocated and is now in her first year residency with family medicine. Next slide. We offer the Wokotowin Mentorship Program. Wokotowin in the Cree language speaks to relationship and the importance of relationship. So with that mentorship program, we pair medical students, pre-health science students with upper year medical students, Indigenous physicians as they're available, and we also provide opportunities for high school mentorship. And our students have been very, very responsive in this area. We also offer a wonderful opportunity for Indigenous pre-med students who are into their second year of study in pre-medicine. We offer them up to $3,500 per year. So you can actually get that $3,500 up to 3 times through your study in pre-medical studies. Next slide. I wanted to make mention of Dr. Veronica McKinney, who has worked very, very closely with the admissions process, with curriculum, and is the current director of Northern Medical Services, which provides physician services in the north. And she's involved and has been very dedicated in many areas of our College of Medicine. I also wanted to make special mention of Dr. Janet Tutusis, who is our Vice Dean of Indigenous with our College of Medicine. And she's been busy working for the past 2.5 years to create a Department of Indigenous Health and Wellness, to also work on curriculum and other initiatives. So we're very proud of her, and she's from Poundmaker Cree Nation. We also have a Health Sciences Indigenous Engagement Committee, and it's a committee that I'm very proud of because we've really worked broadly across the health sciences, working on visual symbols, art projects, teaching opportunities across the health sciences, research initiatives, and other endeavors. And I co-chair that committee along with Dr. Adam Baxter-Jones. I'm very proud of our Indigenous medical students. They have formed the Indigenous Medical Students Association of Saskatchewan. They've ratified the group, and their leadership style is actually based on the medicine wheel and the concept of the circle. And in that circle, nobody's above or below anybody else. In the circle, we're all equal. So very proud of our medical students for the creation of our USask group. And they are actually an arm of the Indigenous Physicians Association of Canada. So some of the things that we have been working on over the years is Indigenous Experience Day. And that's a really wonderful opportunity where we bring up to 250 Indigenous high school students come to our campus. And it wasn't, sorry, that was a little bit mistake there. It was virtual last year. This year it was in person. So very proud of that initiative. We also, the students have a special interest group called the Indigenous Rural and Remote Health Group that was started way back in I think it was actually in 2012. And so we have offered the Laurent Northern experience. We've gone to All Nations Healing Hospital and done other activities with that special interest group. My office offers experiential learning opportunities, so students have the opportunities to participate in ceremonies sometimes, in talking circles, discussion circles, and teachings about Indigenous people. We bring in knowledge keepers, and they're able to do smudge and share sessions. When I started working with the College of Medicine, we didn't have any Indigenous health electives. So we started creating Indigenous health electives, which you would have the opportunity to take part in when you're moving into your 4th year of medicine. So we have partnerships with All Nations Healing Hospital in Fort Qu'Appelle, First Nations and Métis Health Services in Regina and Saskatoon, Métis Addiction Counseling Services in Regina and Saskatoon, the Wellness Wheel out of Regina, and Sturgeon Lake First Nation, where we offer the traditional birthing program. I sit on a committee called the National Indigenous Health Sciences Circle, and that circle represents and includes Indigenous advisors and coordinators from the 17 medical schools from across Canada. Just a little bit of statistics for you. So currently we have 37 First Nations and Métis students studying throughout the 4-year MD program, more than 24 in residency programs, and we have graduated 131 Indigenous physicians. And we work hard recruiting qualified applicants from across Saskatchewan and Canada. So that's just a really quick overview for you. I will stick around and I will be available if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Val, for your leadership and all the work you've put into this portfolio over the years. It's made tremendous impact. And like I said, I feel we are, amongst the leaders in Canada in this. And the programming that Val spoke to, and she spoke of that circle. It of course, Indigenous students, but it's also for non-Indigenous students to build that truth and build that relationship. And it's so important. And Val is extremely welcoming to all who come, as are the Department of Indigenous Health and Wellness. So a lot to be proud of. And this to me is like when you're thinking of what medical school to go to or where, this is truly, I think, one of the beacons of our success. So I just wanted to highlight that. We now have Kyle Carrier. He's one of our 2nd-year medical students. He was one of our student leads in the Price of the Dream program, and he's going to give a short address.
Yeah, so hi everyone, my name is Kyle Carrier. I'm a 2nd-year medical student and I am the Price of a Dream representative for this year. So I'm here today just to give you a little bit of information on the Price of a Dream program. So what it is exactly is it's a fee waiver program offered by a couple universities in Canada that's made to address some of the personal and systemic financial barriers that a lot of individuals face when applying to medical school. In the case of the U of S, upon successful application to the Price of a Dream program, the $150 application fee and the $75 interview fee associated with the application to the U of S will be waived for any successful applicants. And being granted the fee does not affect your standing in the application for the U of S College of Medicine. Next slide, please. So how to apply? So our applications for the Price of a Dream have already passed. They open in mid-May and they will close in mid-July. So anyone applying for next year, it'll be around that same time frame, and you'll be able to apply just through the medicine.usask admissions page. Additionally, there is a document by the AFMS, who are the ones who created Price of a Dream, also on the admissions page right now if you want a little more information. And that's just kind of a brief overview. If you have any questions, I'll be sticking around and I can certainly answer them. And if anything comes up afterwards, just you can send an email over to Davis. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Kyle. And yeah, this is, a great program. We're again one of the leaders in the country in this, and there's a lot of waivers that we have available. So, and it's a program that we're wanting to grow. So certainly, if you qualify, why wouldn't you apply for it? Again, we encourage everyone who would qualify for it to apply and receive those waivers. And the information's on the website as Kyle said. So now, like I said, is the highlight of our program, in my opinion. Obviously, I love my fellow colleagues and staff, but really, especially as applicants to the medical school, you really want to hear from our current medical students, and they're going to give you their perspectives, really important of sort of their journey into medical school. They just went through this process within the last year or two and are fresh through it, and certainly can give really insightful comments and guidance regarding their path through. So tonight we're very fortunate to have Tegan, Isaac, Ashley Fisher, both first-year medical students from Saskatoon. Kyle, who you've already met, second-year student from Saskatoon, and then we have two students from Regina, second-year students, Cassia and Brooke. So what I would have you guys do, if you could just, we can maybe start from the top there, introduce your guys' selves and sort of give a little bit of a highlight of your experience thus far in the program and a bit about your journey on your application and getting into the program.
So I guess I'm first. Hi, I'm Tegan Isaac. I'm a first year medical student. So I was where you guys were last year. I am from a small farm outside of North Battleford, Saskatchewan. I was born here, I was raised here, and I plan to go back to North Battleford or a rural area around there. I hope to at least. I went to school in North Battleford. I did my undergrad here in USask in physiology and pharmacology. It took me this was my second cycle applying, which I think is good to know in case you get a rejection for the first cycle. That doesn't mean it's over. There's still always a chance. And something that I think might be relevant and sort of why I volunteered to do this is I have experienced loss during my med school journey. My mom was diagnosed with metastatic breast cancer during my first year of university, and she passed away last year. And so if you have any questions, if you're in a similar place to that, I might be able to speak to that. Thank you.
Thanks for sharing your story there, Tegan. And certainly, I'm sure some questions are going to come your way. We have Ashley.
Hello, my name is Ashley Fisher. I'm currently a first-year med student at Saskatoon campus, although I was born and raised in Regina, but I've been living up here in Saskatoon for the last 4 years. I did a biomedical science degree at USask here. I also am an Indigenous applicant, so I've gone through that whole Indigenous admissions process. And so if there's any questions about that, I would love to talk to people about that. We have so many different resources and programs available for Indigenous students, and I really hope to see some of you guys getting involved in those in the coming years. But yeah, being a first year, it was just last year that I went through this whole process and trying to balance school, the admissions, maybe your Caspers or MCATs, and then studying for interviews. it's a lot, and it can be definitely overwhelming to try and balance that all. But it was definitely worth it in the end. Med school has just been such a great community so far. All of the people, like all the students and the faculty, are so supportive. And it's just made this first month all worth that whole stress of the last year leading up to it. But yeah, later on when we have questions, feel free to ask anything. It's great to meet you all.
It's great. Thanks, Ashley. We have Kyle. Do you want to give a bit more information about your journey and how things have been going?
Yeah, absolutely. So, hello again. My name is Kyle. So I was born in Edmonton, but raised in Saskatoon. Did all my elementary school, my high school, my undergrad all here. I did a undergrad in physiology and pharmacology. Did that in about 5 years. Um, Similar to what Tegan was said, I also did not get in my first time. I was a second go around, which I think, yeah, it is important to hear because I know that first year was definitely challenging for a lot of reasons. So it's sometimes it doesn't happen the first time around, and that's okay. Um, as a second year, I've been here already for 1 year, and it's been a lot of fun. It's been very challenging, but it's definitely been worth it. Um, Still learning a ton of things. Still feel like I'm learning the ropes a lot, but it's been good, and I still enjoy every day that I get to come here. I get to study. I get to learn things and to learn things that I'm passionate about and love. Um, and it's been great. It's been really good. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer any.
Thanks so much. Cassia, you're up.
Hi everyone, my name's Cassia. I'm a second year student at the Regina campus. I was born and raised in Regina, did my first year of undergrad at the U of R, and then switched to the U of S, and planned to stay at the U of S in Saskatoon. But I did get placed at the Regina campus. And I love telling anyone who will listen that if I could go back, I would choose Regina again. So if you have any questions about the Regina campus at all, I'm very passionate about it. I think we're a great option. And since I have experience also being in Saskatoon, I know a lot of the pros and cons to both campuses. I did do my undergrad in physiology and pharmacology, and I did get in on my first try, but I was waitlisted. So even though you think you have some disappointment, there's still hope, just like our other two students had said. So yeah, I'm very happy to be here and happy to answer any questions about medical school, and especially Regina.
Thanks for sharing, Cassia, and last but not least, Brooke.
Hey, I'm Brooke. I'm actually from the Saskatoon campus. I don't know why it says Regina, but I'm a second year. I'm from Moose Jaw, and I went to high school there, and then I did my undergrad at U of S in Phys Pharm, so that's pretty common. Um, like everyone else, I didn't just apply 2 times or 3 times. I got in on my fourth time. I was waitlisted for 3 times, and then on my fourth time, I got my acceptance. So yeah, I'm here in Saskatoon. And I think for me, having life experience, like in the time between undergraduate and medicine, really allowed me to, improve my interview, but also be ready to pursue medicine. Like taking that time to learn work-life balance really let me be successful in this program as it's really busy. And I don't think I would have been able to succeed as much if I went from undergrad and didn't know how to balance things. So I was happy that I had some time off. But yeah, so if you have any questions, let me know.
Apologies, Brooke, for putting that making that error. So yeah, so now what we're gonna do is open up the chat line, but certainly we can also take people who are brave enough to raise their hand, and we'd love to take some questions. Again, we have available our student panel, admissions coordinator, myself, Val. Arno Pelche, and I don't know if Dr. Kraushaar is still on as well. Dr. Kraushaar is still on. So, okay, we have, again, we'll try our best to answer your question. We're sort of more able to answer more general type questions. If there's really, really specific about your specific application, those are probably best to be addressed by the med.admissions email process. Okay, we'll start with the first hand I saw, which was, is it Vamshi?
Yes, yeah. So I just have a quick question. What's like the best time to apply for med school and like write all your tests like the Casper, MCAT, while you're in your undergrad program?
Perhaps one of our students would like to take that for the MCAT. I will mention for the Casper is the Casper has to be written in the year of your application. And so if you are applying, you would do the Casper in the sort of late spring, early summer up until this fall. There's sort of a fairly large window of about 3 months, different dates, because you have to do the Casper each year. So it only qualifies for the year that you're applying. So for let's say you apply and you don't gain a seat the first time, you actually have to redo the Casper for that next cycle. But for the
So
MCAT, oh, go ahead.
so would you say like if say you would write it in your fourth year, would that be like a good idea? Like your end of your fourth year when you're about to convocate, would you write it then?
Well, you could, but like let's say you were wanting to apply to medical school, um, and get in after your fourth year convocation, then you would actually write at the beginning of your fourth year or not in the summer between third and fourth year, technically. But I will have our med students talk about their thoughts on the MCAT, when to write the MCAT.
I can talk about that. I know you are talking about when you're still in your undergrad. I personally chose to wait until after I was done my undergrad. I didn't feel like studying for another exam in the middle of a whole bunch of other exams. So I convocated and then immediately started studying and took my MCAT at the end of the summer. And then I had the whole year to, because applying to medical school is a lot of work. It's a year-long process with, if you're lucky enough to get to the MMI, the panel interviews. So I really wanted a year to just focus on all of that. And then I also got a really great job opportunity at a clinic, and that really helped me have some real world experience. And I think it really helped me in my interviews as well.
Okay.
I can
But
also talk to this
let's
question a bit. I went into med school straight after, like I convocated, had summer, and then I started my first year of med. And I know what had worked best for me. I know other people who did it a bit differently, and it's worked well for them as well. But I had taken my MCAT in the summer after my second year. And I wanted to do this just as a way to um, try not to get like too busy all at once, but trying to spread out the summer of like the MCAT and the summer that I'd be doing the Casper and starting my application. It gave me a bit more time to dedicate to each of them since I was still doing all of my classes at the time. So I found that was a way that worked really well for me. But I know a lot of people also did the MCAT the summer after their third year, just before they started the application process.
I think I did mine after my second year as well. And I feel like depending on your program, but my program really prepared me, I think, well after my second year. Like my second year covered a lot of the same concepts that I saw on the MCAT, and there was still a great need to study for it, but I was at least familiar enough. And I think after third year is a good option too. Something to consider is it's a very expensive process. So I know a lot of people were able to afford a couple of tries. I wasn't necessarily in a position to do that, so I wanted to like make sure I was ready for it before I took it. So just keep that in mind as well.
Yeah.
would you say that with the MCAT you only need to take it once, right? You don't like if you get like a
Mhm.
good score on it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Your best score. So we used to change it that the most recent score was the one we looked at, and we a couple years ago changed that to the best score, but in one sitting. Okay. And just to Tegan's point is that there is also a fee assistant program through the MCAT as well, that you can also apply to for fee waiver for MCAT, as we do have the price of a dream. Okay. So something else to look at. Again, it's the information for that. There's a link on our information document, but also through the MCAT site itself. So we'll switch gears now. Again, we have Mohammed put up his hand.
Yes, hi.
Hello.
So my question is, if I do my MD outside of Canada, can I do residency in Canada?
Yeah, so that's not really the scope of this presentation, but I can
Mhm.
briefly tell you that there can be opportunities depending on where you did the medical school.
Mhm.
And, it's by no means a guarantee, but there are some residency spots in certain areas uh, that are for international medical graduates.
Mhm. I see.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, s- and if I would do it in Canada here, what would you recommend for an undergraduate degree before medical school?
Yeah, so the beauty of our program and most in Canada is that we don't have prerequisites, as you see, other than the Indigenous Studies prerequisite, and you can enter with any undergraduate degree you'd like. And so my general advice is do what you're passionate about, do what interests you, and do what maybe could lead to, a potential employment down the road, or a path to employment in case the path to medicine, took a bit longer for you, or you needed to rely on that extra education for a job or something like that. But again, that's going to be very individual, but perhaps some members of our panel have some thoughts on that.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, just take classes or a degree that you find interesting because you'll likely engage with the content better and get better marks.
Mhm.
That's definitely a important thing to do.
I see. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I think the important thing to note though is if you do take a degree that isn't as much like medical related, like the biomedical science degrees, the one drawback to that is that you're going to have to do a lot more independent studying to the MCAT. So that's the one thing that you want to be prepared for. All degrees are great, but you will have to just do a lot more studying on your own since you won't have covered a lot of the materials in class.
That's great. Yeah, and some degree programs, of course, you can take, some electives and stuff. It depends, but perhaps, you can take some of those intro courses that may help you prepare for the MCAT in your degree, and it may not necessarily be a pure biomedical science or biologic science degree or even science degree at all. Okay, we have iPhone 297. You have a question?
Yeah. So my question is, I wrote my Indigenous class in 2017. Does that still count for this admission, or do I have to have a more recent class done?
It absolutely counts. Yeah, as long as it meets it's on the list of accepted courses. And if it's not on that list, then you need to just email our office and we'll do an adjudication of it for you. But unlike the MCAT, there's no time limit for the Indigenous studies. Okay. Any other questions from the online? Okay, so we'll start to look through the chat here. Okay. So there's a question from Umair uh, asking about could you speak a bit more on the MD MBA dual degree program? What have past candidates been able to accomplish with the additional designation, and what are some of the benefits? I don't believe any of our panelists have done that program, but I can speak to it. So the MD MBA program, there's sort of two different ways to gain access to it. One is directly from basically right at the beginning of your medical journey, where you would do the MBA first, and then you do the 4-year MD degree. And Edwards has a really condensed MBA. It's intense, but you're able to finish it actually in a year, which is quite remarkable. But it's full-time study. And the other option is to enter between the second completing your second year and before starting your third year, so between clerkship and pre-clerkship. And so that's another potential path to take it. We do offer some financial assistance. There's two scholarships that are there to help with some of the cost for that. So that's something that can be applied for. And you also have to gain acceptance through, obviously, the MD program first, but then also Edwards School Business also has their own admissions. However, they're usually, if you get into medical school, they're very motivated to have you in their MBA because we do obviously accept top-notch, excellent candidates for medicine. In terms of what you'd be able to accomplish with it, it's a different way of thinking. Certainly in medicine these days, there's a lot of policy, a lot of strategic management. Of course, we work in healthcare systems, we work in clinical environments, but each of these has financial implications. And this is where the MBA may help you if you have an interest in administration, in health policy, in anything that would involve governance, and you're interested in systems, or even, if you're entrepreneurial and you may want to run your own clinic or run a group of clinics or sort of dive into more the entrepreneurial spirit of medicine. So I'd say, for those that have that, it definitely will not be a disadvantage. If anything, an advantage for you in your career. How you'll use it could be variable, depending, because it can open up a few different doors and paths for you. And some people with the MBA also will do research along with it, looking at cost analyses or needs assessments and stuff. So hopefully that helps answer your question, Umair. And there is more information if you'd like on our website, and certainly we can get you in touch with one of the academic advisors through Edwards as well to give you a bit more information about the MBA program. Okay, I'm going to head back to our brave souls who are raising their hands. I apologize if I pronounce your name wrong. Is it Ayush?
Yeah.
Hello.
My question is, what are some extracurriculars that everyone did that helped them get into medical school?
Okay, I'll have our student panel provide some insights there.
I can speak to that. I did a lot. I had just answered one of the questions in the chat. I had no research experience coming into medical school. I have never been a big research person, so a lot of my experience stemmed from extracurriculars and volunteer work. So I think that my biggest advice would be to find something that you're passionate about and volunteer in that area. I discovered I was passionate about women's health, so I volunteered with Search, which is kind of like Switch, but in Regina, and also with the Saskatoon Abortion Support Network. I was a part of the Service and Justice Project at the St. Thomas More College in Saskatoon. So there's a lot of opportunities in that sense. But yeah, I would just say find something that you love and do a lot in it. I think that the admissions likes to see that you have a passion and that you care about something.
I was and still am very involved in the music community, both in my hometown of North Battleford, but also I've been involved in the USask Jazz Ensemble here. And I just think it's important, yeah, to be passionate about what you are participating in, but also to think about how it is impacting your life and frame it in a way of what it has contributed, how you've grown in a person through participating in it. Try to make it unique, especially for the interviews.
Kind of on the flip side for what Cassie was saying, I was a big volunteer for Switch in Saskatoon, which for anyone who doesn't know that, it is a student-ran clinic on the west side of the city here in Saskatoon. And for undergrad students, it's a really cool place to kind of learn more about your community, learn about that community in particular. As well as to kind of get your hands into like various aspects of the community. You can do things like food preparation, childcare, programming, and stuff like that. And I think it was a really good place not only to kind of give you a little more experience with community, but also to kind of get your feet wet in a clinic environment and even just give yourself the experience to understand like if this is something that you would really enjoy is to be in that healthcare environment. So I think for anyone who is in undergrad or is in Saskatoon, I think it's a great place to kind of check out and kind of see that. And I think it was a massive benefit to me when I was doing my application. I think it came up a lot in my interview. It came up a lot in my personal experience. And I mean, you're like even disregarding the application to med, I think it helped me grow a lot as a person. So I honestly can't say enough good about it.
Yes, I think the key theme there is do something that you really are passionate about. We're not looking for a checkbox like, oh, you volunteered. More it helps you grow as a person, to give back to your community, to show empathy, to gain that experience, make new relationships, network in your community, and really, it from there can blossom into other things. So what we're looking for are people that are well-rounded, right? Because when you get to medical school, if you haven't interacted with others, especially those that are not as advantaged as you, or have different perspectives than you, you're really at a disadvantage, to be honest, because those are the patients you're going to be seeing. And if you haven't interacted with them before, it's really, really hard to do that if you've never done it before. And so getting that experience early on, and even in high school and in undergrad, if you're doing graduate studies, and just being open to that is the key. But we don't have a specific, like, you must do 50 hours of volunteer per term or something. That's we're not looking for that. It's more doing things you're really passionate about and interested in. Okay, so we have Vamshi, do you have another question, or
Yes, yeah. So the piece of dream, or what was it?
price of a dream?
Yeah, price
Mhm.
of the dream. Yeah. Does that apply to everyone? Like, is it a financial need kind of thing, or is it just like you can just apply no matter what?
No, it's the criteria for it is on the website, but yes, there's a financial need component
Okay.
that needs to be met. Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
Okay. Um, so just looking here at some of the other questions. I believe we had a couple people also um, provide some questions to us beforehand, and I'd like to thank you for doing that. And Krista, if I can call on you, sorry to call you on the spot, but do you have access to those questions? Would you be able to share them with our group?
Sure, yeah, I can read a few of them. So the first one is, how are pass fail courses looked at?
Ironically, you might be the best one to answer that.
Sure. So pass-fail courses can be used toward the credit count to the 120 credit units that makes up your four-year degree. They don't factor into the UAA calculation anywhere, obviously, because there's no grade, but they can be used towards making that 120 credit units. The next question is, if an individual takes one or more semesters off in their undergrad degree, is it counted toward the 5-year time limit? And the answer to that is no. We remove any time away from study when calculating that 5 years. There's a question about transcripts actually, and we get a lot of questions about this. So for your transcripts for the application, so the question is, does my transcript need to be sent from a MyCreds account, or can it be uploaded as a PDF? So I'll just maybe briefly go over transcripts in general. So for the application, applicants are required to upload an official copy of their transcript themselves. And so it would be up to you to obtain that official copy either through email for an e-transcript, or you can have it mailed to yourself through post from your institution, and then you'd have to scan it and upload it. MyCreds is fine. You can have the transcript sent to yourself through MyCreds as well, but it does need to be uploaded by yourself. So you can't have it sent to the office and have one of the staff do it. It has to come from you, and it does have to be an official copy. So I think that should cover that. And actually, and the other question is about high school transcripts. So same thing. If you went to a high school out of province, you would need to obtain a copy of that official high school transcript and then upload it as well as a supplemental item. All the transcripts are supplemental items. So again, you wouldn't be able to do that until the application is submitted. And that's actually it. That's all that's come in through email. So.
And that was just fortuitous too. That was the one. So Krista Rhodes, one of our admissions officers, along with Carla. Again, she and Carla and our whole team, but do a tremendous amount of work on the file review, going through, making sure all the requirements are there. And yeah, in terms of those really specific things, they're the ones also to help you through email if there's a question like that as well. So thank you for that. And the other thing is that all of these nuances, they actually are there in the app doc. So sometimes we'll point you towards the app doc, like it's in the app doc, or take an excerpt of the app doc. But before you email, it's always helpful. I know it's a long document, but I think if you're applying for something so important, it's important to read it and find you'll find your answer there most likely. I'd say 95% of the time. Okay, were there any other questions from the online chat here that we can highlight? Our students, perhaps, is there one there that you guys would like to dive into? So in terms, there's some questions about our last year statistics. Those will be posted at the end of the month. So they'll be posted on our website. Take a look. Our one from prior is on our website now. So there's that. We talked about the volunteer experience. There's a question about how the written personal statements are assessed. So they're an absolute requirement at the time of application. They are assessed in a few different ways, but the primary way that we look at them is actually they're used as a springboard in the panel interview discussion. And they're used throughout the process, but that's a big way. So what you're writing in your personal statement, you have to be able to speak to in the panel interview in particular. But certainly there's a few different ways as well that they're assessed, but that's like the primary way. So certainly take your time to write them as truthfully and authentically as possible. we're not looking for an AI generated response here. This is like your own personal statement of yourself, and so it's really important that it's done with that heart. There's some stuff about research. Certainly, it was Cassia. Thank you, and I agree. So not required. Certainly can do it if that's your passion. Of course, in medical school, there's option. We do have people coming in with grad degrees, and other projects that they've done, but it's not an absolute requirement. Okay, Abby asked a question. It's procedural, but it's a good question. Why was dropping the lowest classes removed in this cycle? Maybe Krista, I'll have you answer that too. I know the answer, but I think you have the best perspective on it. If you are okay to be put on the spot.
Sure. So the initial introduction of the dropping of the grades came in when the minimum average was increased. And that was just sort of a way to bridge that gap, and sort of give people that little bit of extra rolling into when it came to an 80. Over the couple of years that we did do the removal of the grades, we did some research on it and sort of researched, what the averages were that were coming in, how far they were making it in the cycle, that kind of thing. And so we did that for 2 years and really did a deep dive in how that was working. And what we actually found is that a very high percentage, if you did not meet the 80% prior to the removal, it was very, very low out of all of the applicants that they actually made it through all of the stages of the application process. And the amount of work that goes into having 2 separate calculations was quite extensive with the number of applicants we have. And so we took all our research and took it to the committee, and it was decided that we would do away with that. And now we're a couple years out from raising that average. So students are more prepared for that increase, and we're seeing a better outcome that way. So I hope that covers it for you, Dr. Domes.
Yes, thanks, Krista. Krista was involved in that research. That's why I mentioned it. So yeah, it wasn't made lightly. As any of the decisions that are made, they're actually made with a full admissions committee that's a diverse committee of multiple individuals and stakeholders. And we looked at the process, looked at the research, and it was felt through our analysis that no longer would we have that, based for all those reasons, but mainly because those where they were getting, like, whether or not it sort of got them from a 78, well, actually usually it was like without it 79 point whatever to an 80 point whatever, it didn't really change their trajectory of how they eventually did in the process. In other words, if they were that on the cusp, usually they wouldn't have made it through to get a seat. So, and that was just the reality of the situation. But we do have other paths that were used to compensate for that. So we now have graduate studies augmentation. And so that's a new feature that we've included. So those that are currently enrolled in a master's level or PhD level of at least 6 credit units and an active study, there's a grade augmentation. Those that have completed a master's degree, there's an additional augmentation. Those that have completed a PhD, there's additional augmentation. So that was used as another new initiative to look at that.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Domes, for adding that part. I should have mentioned that as well, because we're hoping that students will consider doing a graduate degree, and and that gives them a little bit of a incentive to do that. So
Yeah, because what we were seeing is a lot of people just repeating their undergraduate, like another undergrad, but that from a professional point of view or gaining access to the workforce or just their overall learning, um, it that's not necessarily what we're wanting people to do, right? We'd rather you move ahead and not sort of keep in the bachelor's. So that's where that can actually really help because we also take the credit units. So courses in the master's or PhD that are graded can be used and will replace older grades in the undergrad. Plus, you get the augmentation, right? So it's a better use of your time, and that's important because the skills you learn in grad studies certainly are really helpful when you get into med school too. So that's why we've done that. So yeah, good question though, astute question. Seeing the change there. Alexa, Alexandra, sorry, she asked, to get into medical school, does one need to have a full course load during their undergrad, i.e. 15 credit units per semester? So this is part of the app doc, but the answer to that is no, you don't. It's highly encouraged though, but by no means is an absolute requirement. But what is a requirement is the degree has to be completed in 5 years. That being said, if there is some extenuating circumstance for some reason, there is an option, and you'll see in the it's also in the app doc, but there is an option to write a letter to the admissions committee, providing some context to that for additional consideration. Okay. So question, do the application questions for personal statements change every year? The answer to that is yes. We like to change them most years, at least as I've been director, but perhaps the new director may have a different approach. But the admissions committee typically is looking to have new application questions each year. Again, there's so many questions one can ask, but it's to provide, especially previous applicants, right, a new frame to base their application. So yeah, I think Mohammed had a question. Cassia answered it very nicely. So you can have some challenges in your undergraduate degree in terms of the marks, but it's the cumulative average we look at. That being said, there was that slide that talked about academic consistency. But we know early on, especially when people are transitioning into undergrad from high school, it's natural to have some fluctuation in grades. So that is less concerning as fluctuation actually in the end of the program where we're seeing grades that were maybe high and then are going down because again, ideally they should be going up as you're entering medical school, which is perhaps academically more rigorous. And so that's something just to be mindful of. But unto itself, especially at the beginning there, as long as you can bring that overall average up to over 80, then you can apply. And there is another question about the calculation, the GPA. Again, this is all in the app doc, but yes, we look at the most recent 120 credit units. So if you've taken more classes, whether at the graduate, undergraduate level, especially the graduate level in particular, we will subtract over time because the calculation is based on 120, not on like 150 or whatever. It's to be 120 to maintain fairness. Cassia, thank you for doing a lot, like answering this in the chat. It was awesome, and for our other students as well. Just seeing if there's any other questions. So, Mohammed, you have another question perchance for our students or one of our members?
Yes, I have a question. So you talked about the GPA cumulative average in university. I just want to confirm that it is basically the average of all the 4 years together, and that if, for example, the first year I get like let's just say 70%, that still does not matter as long as the 4-year average is 80 or above.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, but if you're applying, let's say in your 4th year, then we would base that on 90 credit units. So it has to be a minimum of 90 up to 120. Yeah.
Okay.
This is a good question from Emma. This is again procedural. But do the number of applications indicating the admission statistic document include people who have applied and do not meet the UAA and MCAT cutoff requirements? So in some sense, in some of the statistics, yes. So for example, total number of applicants, we document that as the total number that applied. And um, and so we have to do our file review to determine the other aspects of the file if it meets the other criteria. So when you look at the documents, you may see 1,000 applied, but perhaps 30 of those or 40 or whatever did not make the cut points. But this is also why we let everyone know what the cut points are, because we want people who don't make the cut points to not apply, right? But again, we can't stop those individuals per se. So we will include those in that. But then when it gets to the academic metrics that come later, those are removed. As you see, because they didn't make it through the next pieces of the cycle, which is usually you'll see at the MMI is where we start looking at the other metrics, or in particular who gets into the program. So there's a question from Ayush about does being from a rural area in Saskatchewan help your chances of getting into medical school? And so this is a good question. One of the areas that we are focusing on, certainly as a socially accountable medical school, is enhancing our rural applicants, those who have rural roots. And part of that is because we have studies, not just here, but actually throughout the world, showing that those who come from rural areas have a higher chance of practicing in rural areas when they're done their studies. And I think it was Tegan who mentioned, he's from the Battlefords. And yeah, he wants to go back to the Battlefords, which is like music to my ears. I love that. Because we highly need individuals in those areas where they're underserviced right now. And as the only medical school in the province and the lifeblood of the physician workforce in the province, we have to be strategic in that. So I would say you have to, but the thing is, everyone has to meet standards. Everyone has to be admissible to the program. Everyone that gets a seat are all like, we're not giving different standards for different groups, right? So, but I would say statistically, yes, if you come from a rural area, you're from Saskatchewan, statistically, yeah, you would have a bit of a higher chance because of that reason. Okay. But it doesn't mean that we're giving you like you have less requirements. It's just that there might be a bit of a higher Saskatchewan connected score because you have some rural roots that we know play a role. Okay, so that's that. But again, we don't sort of publish how that's calculated, and it's at the discretion of the admissions committee.
Do you mind if I briefly say some things about being from a rural area and applying?
Please, yes.
Yeah, so I found that a lot of my interviews ended up being about coming from a rural area, and I think it's a really good way to uh, show your positive attributes. I would definitely, if you are from a rural area, think about what you enjoyed about being in that rural area, how the community that you feel with those areas differs from when you're living in Saskatoon, for example, and just have tangible reasons as to why you have a connection to that area. And I think that'll help you in interviews.
Precisely. We want everyone to be their authentic self. That's so important. Whether it's in the personal statement, as I just saw, there was a question about, is there some certain things you guys should be highlighting in the personal statement? No, what we're looking for is your true authentic self and what your personal reflection is of the question, not some specific thing. Two different people may have completely different responses to that question, but they're still both very valid and very impactful, right? So, so in terms of that, I would recommend reading the question, reflecting on it for a few days, thinking about it, and then your authentic self. We would like people to, if you have experiences or things that you've had, you can highlight them in there for sure, right? But again, it comes down to each person. We're not looking for a meritocracy. By that, I mean those who have more privilege and maybe more access to certain opportunities and experiences because of wealth or other connections, those people, because they've experienced that, that's great, but it doesn't mean that they're a better applicant than someone who didn't have that, right? So we're getting to very close to the end. I know we have a few more questions here, but like I said to our panel, our students and our staff here after hours, I think, there does come a point where we need to, close this down. Is there any from our panel, any last minute words of advice maybe or closing statements you guys would like to make for our applicants this year?
I think one piece of advice I'd like to give to any applicants is don't wait until last moment to do the application or to write the personal statement. Try and get on it as soon as you can. If you wait, things are just going to pile up and it's going to be rushed and it might not be your best piece of work. So you really want to get started on it early so you can put the most effort into that application and give it your best shot.
I would.
Sorry.
Sorry, go ahead.
Okay. I would just want to reiterate what I've said a few times now is to just find things that you're passionate about and that you're committed to. Be honest in the admissions process. And Tristan has also said a lot to be true to yourself and show your personality. So I would just reiterate that as well.
I think an important aspect is to be reflective. And so I think there's like a surface level honesty that you can have, but I think it's important to dig deeper and to have a lot of time thinking about your reasons, your motivations for going into medicine, about the experience you've had and why they motivate you, and just digging a little deeper. And I think that was the difference between my first cycle and my second cycle is I took the time to process all the experiences, well, not all, but a lot of the experiences I had, and I practiced being able to show those experiences to the interviewers or to in your essays.
Yeah, I guess it's like a last point. I know everyone's asking about where to volunteer or what degree to take. And I was asking questions like that too when I was, applying or starting university. And I just think, like Cassia said, if you do something you're passionate about, I think naturally it'll develop you and you'll be excited about it. And, that'll give you things to talk about in the interview and also will make you like a really good candidate and like a good physician someday. So I think if you just like stick to your guns and do things you really like, I think it'll all work out for you and it'll set you apart in your application.
Do you have anything to add, Kyle?
Yeah, I think kind of reflecting on what everyone else has said, I think a big aspect is to just like, I think it's very easy, especially in medicine and in your undergrad, to kind of get really wrapped up in the academics, to always want like, you want the best grade, you want to have like really good research, you want to have like this really like stellar academic profile. And I think it's very easy to like toss your like other qualities, like just being personable, developing skills, just like doing things outside of academics that kind of make you a more well-rounded person in general. And I think one thing that I was very apparent to me in the interview process was that in the interview is that they want to see those aspects of you outside of academics. They want to see who you are as a person. What do you enjoy doing? What are you passionate about? They want to see you being not just this like machine who can like root memorize and do tests and regurgitate information. They want to see you being an actual person and to have those skills um, associated with like that social aspect. And so I think a big component that helped me was going outside the academics, um, working, doing volunteer work, doing hobbies that I loved, and kind of developing and curating those aspects outside of who I was in an academic context, as well. And so I think that's something I'd always like to echo is it's very easy to get stuck in sitting in the library and studying. But make sure you get out there as well and kind of figure out what else do you love outside of your education.
Yeah, it's very well said, and I couldn't agree more. Um, have some fun along the journey, right? Enjoy life. It's really too short to be, doing that, and it's hindsight, of course, but it's important to realize you can look at it right from that final view, right, of what are we looking for, right? It's that MMI, it's that panel interview, right? And the MCAT falls off. And like we want people to be academically prepared, but we also want to make sure that people have some life experience coming into this program because that life experience is really going to help you form those relationships with your colleagues, form those relationships with your patients, and being able to help you build resiliency along the way, which is so important in medical school and especially actually as a practicing physician. Okay. So I think, I'd like to thank everyone for their time, our students in particular, for volunteering, Dr. Crochar, Val, our full admissions team, and our members of the pre-medicine clubs for giving their address. I think this was a fantastic webinar and info session. Again, sorry we couldn't get to every single question here. I tried to answer most of them here in the chat and also our other team members and our students. But certainly if you have any question that wasn't addressed, feel free to email med.admissions@usas.ca and we'll get to that and answer your questions. And I wish everyone, especially those applying this cycle, the best of luck in their application to medical school. So have a good night, everyone, and take care.